Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Shadowrun Returns. This is a game that was kickstarted. One of the first major successes, really, on Kickstarter, and one of those games that has been looked at with great scrutiny. Eyes have been put on this product. The reason, of course, being that people want to know, is it possible for these more grandiose Kickstarter projects to actually work out? Will it be a disappointment? Will it fail its promises, is the question. That's a good question, isn't it? Well, we will find out. There's been a little bit of controversy surrounding this title. Not huge amounts, but little things, like, for instance, the fact that apparently you can't add in new weapons into the game via the editor. That is restricted. And also, of course, the DLC plans for the product, things like that. But those have, for the most part, been fairly minor. I'd like to focus, of course, today on the actual game. This game should be out by the time that you get to watch this. It's supposed to be coming out on the 25th. It's already been delayed like once before, so it's pretty much ready to rock and roll. So this is a CRPG in the classic style of things by Harebrained Schemes. It's got a lot of the guys behind Shadowrun on it. It's a narratively driven RPG, along the lines of Baldur's Gate, Planescape Torment, and titles like that. So, let's have a look and see what we got. Have a quick look at the options menu. Not a huge amount to really see here. You can mess around with the difficulty and text speed. Text speed is particularly useful. Camera edge pan on or off if you so desire, so that means that moving to the edge of the screen is going to move the camera around. The camera is not locked to your character, so you will pretty much always have to do this. As it turns out, this option was just added in, so let's make sure we have the HD textures enabled. There we go. It's just got patched into this version by the looks of it. Make sure AA is on. I'm pretty sure I turned that on earlier, but apparently it's turned itself off. Alright, whatever. In fact, let's just go all the way up. I'm fairly sure we can handle it. That should be okay. Alright, so under content, you'll find a bunch of different things. The main content here is the Dead Man's Switch. That's the main campaign. This is supposed to run you anywhere between about 12 to 15 hours to play through. The other content, of course, is coming in the DLC, as well as a bunch of user-generated stuff. The game has a very powerful editor. It's not an easy-to-use editor by any stretch of the imagination. Don't expect user-friendly there. You're going to have to work at it in order to figure that one out, and it is a separate program outside of the game. UI elements in that editor are fairly minimal, so you will need to learn quite a bit. Okay, I'm going to continue from where I left off. This is, I would say, a good 2 hours in. Reasonable place to start a first impressions video. One should always bear in mind, of course, when watching videos about RPGs in first impressions, RPGs tend to be carried very much by story and character development, and it's almost impossible to really properly judge that. It's entirely possible that 8 hours in, the whole thing goes entirely off the rails. So, as always, combine this with other research, including full reviews and so on and so forth. This is just to give you a taste of what the game has, and to talk a little bit about what's good and what isn't. So, let's continue, shall we? In we go. Alright, so we are heading into a place called the Seamstresses Union, which would appear to be your hub. As always, with any video of an RPG, this could contain minor spoilers, because basically everything is a spoiler. There shouldn't be any major story stuff, and I'll try to stick to side missions where I can. So, there you go. Alright, here we go. Right. So, welcome to Shadowrun. So, annoyingly enough, I've already played this bit, but at least I know what's actually going to happen. So, the first thing that I would say about this game, which is irritating, is the fact that it has a very silly checkpoint system. An extremely silly checkpoint system. The fact is that the checkpoints in this game are far too far apart, and it doesn't have the ability to save in the middle of anything. Why this is, I have no idea. I can't imagine. I really, really cannot. Like, I shouldn't even have to be going through this bit here, because I've already done it. And I even traveled to an entirely separate area. And it actually just sent me right back to this, which is very, very annoying indeed. Oh well, oh well. So, this is the bar, as I was talking about, and this is going to be a hub area for me. under the ground, it would seem there are a bunch of different facilities. This is my character wandering around here. He is a rather silly-looking elf. We can have a look at his portrait, if you so desire. That's what he looks like. There are various different races available in this game. I'll probably try and show you a little bit of character creation after this, just so you can have an idea of the customization levels you've got here. Now, when I say it's a CRPG in the classic sense, that means there's a lot of stats, a lot of skills to have, so let's go and have a look at it. Skills are divided into 6 categories, which all feature a different stat. You can upgrade that stat as well as the skills that are dependent on it. That means that you're not going to be able to upgrade your ranged combat to 5 until your quickness is 5. Each of these stats has a different effect, both in combat and outside of combat. Think of how Fallout does things, for instance. Your intelligence in a conversation is important, because you will occasionally get special options dependent on a certain level of intelligence and other skills like that. And then, of course, it affects the effectiveness of other skills as well. So, you know, that makes perfect sense. So, quickness there, you see ranged combat is a skill, and then there are sub-skills under that, which dictate your skill with various different types of weapon. As you can see, ranged weapons, you've got pistols, SMGs, shotguns, and rifles, all of which have special abilities you can unlock there. And depending on your race, you also have a certain maximum, yeah? So, races do have actually a fairly large effect on the abilities that you will get and the kind of character you're probably going to build, so bear that in mind. Close combat, unarmed, throwing weapons all the way down to here. I've been investing a lot in intelligence because I picked a Decker as a class. However, you can basically do whatever class you want. Like, if I want to get the ability to summon spirits and spells and stuff like that, as a Decker, I can do that. It's really kind of irrelevant. The classes are just a bunch of frameworks. They're archetypes. You can completely ignore that and spend your starting points and stats where you will. As it stands, I didn't really want to do that on my first run through, so there you go. Now, you acquire these skills via the collection of karma, which is generally done by doing objectives and sub-objectives. It's really kind of that simple. As far as I know, getting kills doesn't give you experience or karma or anything along those lines, so there you go. As you can see, I've got a guy following me around. So far, I don't know if it's possible to acquire permanent party members. The only party members I've had up to this point have been temporary, and you don't really have a lot of control over them outside of combat. You can't really equip them as far as I know. This is... There you go. You can see, like, that's his inventory, but he doesn't have anything in it, which makes little sense, because I know for a fact he has an SMG. So it's really kind of strange. But as far as I know, you can't really meddle with the inventory of these guys. I imagine you probably do get companions later on in the game, but it is kind of strange that everything so far has been temporary. Now, you might have noticed a lot of text earlier. There's a huge amount of text in this game. A lot of it, it's just a huge amount. And that's fine, because that's exactly what they were aiming for here. What they were trying to do was to create a narratively driven RPG experience in the vein of Planescape Torment, which also had a lot of words in it. There is no voice acting in this game whatsoever. It is all text. What that does mean is that you do have a lot of conversation choices, which is quite nice. So I can have words with him. Some of those things don't really matter, yeah? And they're very much choices that you can make based on what kind of character you want to sound like. Some of them do matter. Some of those choices are going to cause certain things to happen. They're going to have people shut down and not speak to you. And then, of course, you've got the choices which are based on stats, like the ability to intimidate somebody, or the ability to outsmart them or charm them, and things like that. So we're going to head on down to the basement here, and that's going to give me access to a bunch of different vendors. That's going to let me talk a little bit about the economy and things like that. Then we'll try and head out and see if we can find a side mission, and I can show you a little bit of the combat, which is featured in this game, but it's, funnily enough, not exactly a priority, it would appear. Doesn't mean it's bad, it's just there's a surprising amount of exploration, discussion, investigation, and just general role-playing stuff outside of shooting people. Which is quite nice. So I'm just going to spam through this right now, because I don't really want to spoil anything that I don't have to, okay? Obviously, minor spoilers were kind of to be expected here, but I'm just going to ignore as much of this as I possibly can. This is probably going to screw me over later on the playthrough, because I'm not going to get everything, but hey, it's for your benefit. So, welcome to the basement level of the Seamstresses Union, whereby there are all manner of different strange vendors. I should probably comment at this stage on the graphics style, but you'll probably be more impressed by the exteriors as opposed to the interiors. Very colorful, nice, pre-rendered design, yeah? It's all from a fixed perspective. The models are 3D, and they look reasonable, especially with the HD texture pack on. but they're not quite as impressive as the design of the environments. Like, this reminds me of playing Icewind Dale. When I played Icewind Dale back then, and even now, if I look at it, it's like, wow, this pre-rendered stuff looks amazing. Here it does as well, although they've done a surprisingly good job of not having the character stick out like sore thumbs, which is quite impressive. That was one of the biggest problems, I feel, with actually dealing with pre-rendered backgrounds. The characters didn't look like they actually belonged there. Here they do. You also combine that with a nice art style and the portraits and things like that that do quite nicely reflect the 3D character models, and for the most part, you've got a good theme. You know, it's got a good aesthetic, very cyberpunk-esque. There's a lot of neon. As I said, you'll see the outside shortly enough, I think. Lots of information about the universe as well. If you go into this not knowing anything about Shadowrun, like me, because I don't know much about Shadowrun, you will learn quite easily. Like, I picked a Decker because it sounded cool. I had no idea what a Decker did. If I talk to this guy, I will find out exactly what a Decker does. And it would appear that there is something called the Matrix in this game. I haven't seen this yet. It allows you to jack into it and actually fight in a virtual world, and you use your deck and different abilities and programs in order to actually do that. As you can see, there's a lot of different purchase options from these various different vendors. You can stash most things. You've got an inventory size of only about 6 items aside from what you're equipped with. Your actual equipment is reasonably limited in what you can wear, and that actually surprised me quite a lot. I would have expected from this kind of character-driven RPG for there to be more equipment slots, but there actually aren't. The equipment is properly reflected on the character, which is nice. As you can see, I'm wearing this stylish outfit. Each of these outfits actually does have some kind of ability to it, and you can buy a lot of them. The tourist look has 3 armor and grants +1 intelligence, so I thought I'd grab that. You can pick a weapon. You also have an additional slot for a weapon that you can unlock. I think there's another one after that as well. In this case, I'm using my deck here. As you can see, this is completely useless in regular combat, so don't really know why I'm running around with it. This is designed for The Matrix, which again, I have not had a chance to experience yet. And then you've got your backpack, which can contain up to 6 items, usually consumables like frag grenades and drugs and things like that. So that's a little bit limited, but what you do have is cyberware. You can actually replace almost every part of your body with cyberware, which is cybernetics. So as you can see, there are 6 different slots for that, and you can buy all sorts of different stuff. So I guess it kind of compensates for it with the cyberware, but I was quite surprised to not see a huge amount of character customization in terms of gear. I don't seem to find a lot of gear either. Most of it's bought, as far as I can tell. I don't think there are any ridiculously random drops in this game. Most of the stuff you get is not from killing people, although occasionally you'll get a drop, usually story important, but it's from actually raiding areas and finding items hidden away. Alright. So, can have a few different conversations with the various fellows around here, which also happen to include some rather strange-looking orcs, elves, and things like that. For those of you who don't know much about Shadowrun, the idea is a cyberpunk universe where magic has re-emerged, which means there are numerous races of meta-humans like orcs, dwarves, and elves mixed in with this futuristic setting. A little bit dystopian, to say the least. A lot of unpleasant things go on here. And overall, I love the fact that there is so much text and so much good writing and character to each of these guys. I mean, even the basic stuff like the vendors, they just sound fantastic. They really, really do. I was hoping that there would be a better pistol here. Only a mild upgrade. There's a bunch of drones and grenades here. I might buy that one anyway. It does the same kind of damage, but it's got a higher capacity than my existing pistol, so I'm thinking I'm going to grab that. Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable. I was certainly hoping for a bit of a better gun, but we'll go with it. As far as I can tell, there aren't any ways to modify your weapons, at least not from what I've seen up to this point, which is slightly disappointing. I guess I'll just keep hold of both guns. That'll save me from reloading, I suppose. There we go. Alright. So I want to try and head out so that I can maybe find a side mission, maybe something that's combat orientated, or even something that has a lot of conversations in it, honestly. I have to have words with her briefly for story reasons, so spoilers coming in. I'm just going to click through this as quickly as I can so that you don't really have to worry too much about this stuff. There we go, blah, 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 blah. Just don't look to the right of the screen. Close your damn eyes. Keep them closed. Yep, keep them closed. I don't even know why I'm even bothering to try and hide this stuff from you, but yeah. It is an RPG, and it is story-driven, so that's kind of to be expected, isn't it? Alright. Okay. As far as I know, this is kind of your base camp area. You have a bed there where you can rest to recover health and wounds and things like that. You also have access to your stash and so on and so forth. Have a word with him because he's quite styling. Look at him. Oh, man. There we go. I'm just impressed by the sheer number of options that they give in the dialogue, and it's like some of the options, they don't really do anything, but they're designed to make you feel like you're actually role-playing. Yeah, that's very classic style CRPG stuff, which is exactly what I would have expected. And some of it's pretty well written as well, actually. It's surprisingly well written. It has a lot of Shadowrun lingo that you have to learn as you go through there, but it's, for the most part, engaging as far as I can tell. I haven't really stumbled across anything that I would specifically say, yup, this is very badly written, that's not really a real word, let's try again. Yeah, this is really badly written and cringeworthy and things like that. It generally isn't. What I also like is the sheer number of descriptions that they put in this game as well. Like, all of this is just a description. Like, I have learned about this guy because you put basically a pen and paper RPG description in here. Good. That's good. I learned more about him. Instead of having to learn through nonsense exposition and cutscenes, I just read about him. And I don't know about you, but I missed the time when I was able to do that. Okay, let's have some words with him. Yes, I'm pretty sure you did. Thank you very much. Alright. I am going to give him the stones, I think. Right. I could give him everything, or I could keep a hold of a few things. Well, I don't know. That's a tough decision to make. Pebble with the runes on it and give him the rest. And that seems important, but maybe just with runes on it, it's probably something to do with magic, and I don't generally deal with that. That's fine. I'll give him all the stones. There we go. Yes. Yeah, I thought so. Sweet. I should have kept a hold of that one, but there you go. Alright, I imagine that it's probably not going to let me out of here until I actually go through this. It's one of the would I call it a problem? I probably would. I think that in a game like this, you maybe get the impression that you have the freedom to wander around everywhere. You don't. Not necessarily. And I think maybe that is a weakness, frankly. I think that it's the kind of thing that some people would appreciate the ability to do, and they don't really like the illusion of it, you know? I should be able to wander out of this bar and go and do some other stuff, but I can't do that until I've completed certain objectives. And there are, more often than not, times where I'll get to a point in the story and it'll just instantly transport me to where I need to go. Doesn't necessarily seem like they needed to do that, honestly. I think that they could have done a better job there. Alright, there we go. Found a fence for it. Can I actually leave now? No. I mean, this is the thing. I can't leave. It would be nice to be able to leave and just come back later. There are plenty of games where you are able to do that. Is there a point to doing that? No, but it does give you that feeling of freedom. And it also means that they can put stuff into the game like, say, random events that occur, or give you an opportunity to do a bunch of side quests that maybe you missed in the larger town hub areas. But it seems like the game does try to shepherd you in the direction of not doing that. It's almost like it's so story-driven that it's afraid to really let you off the leash. And that concerns me a little bit, because that's not what I remember from older RPGs. It would let you actually wander around and maybe get a little bit lost. This game doesn't really let you do that. Alright, I'm going to speak to her again. Let's see if there's anything else. Let's get some information. Okay, maybe I have to go back. Let's have a look at the objectives and see what it actually wants me to do. Investigate Sam's bunk. Okay, well that was down there, so let's go and do that, shall we? Guess that's the next objective. I should have really paid attention to that. The yellow indicator on the map generally means that it's something that's vitally story important, as you can see, so you should usually do that. The game does not have a mini-map, if you are asking, or just any kind of map, as far as I can tell, at any rate. It has a list of objectives and mission items, but it doesn't have a map, which is slightly annoying. The reason it's slightly annoying is because in the larger town areas, you think, oh, I want to just go and explore everywhere just to make sure that I didn't miss any kind of side quests or story elements. And it's easier to do that if you actually have a map, yeah? It's easier to find that stuff. If you don't, it can be easy to miss something, which I don't think is that great. Alright. Let's have a look at the photo. Interesting. As I said, there's a lot of investigation that goes on here. That's one of the stronger points of the game, actually, that it makes you read a lot and it actually gets you into the story in a real way, which is what RPGs are for at the end of the day. Okay. Just keep ahead of that. Got myself a mission item. We have another word with Coyote. Let's see how far we can go here. There we go. Aha. Alright. Excellent. Okay, so I guess we're going to be moving out now. Take a cab. Alright, so I guess I'll just go back upstairs. Alright, so I'm hoping that eventually we're going to actually get to show you some combat, because that's really the biggest thing about this game that I haven't really had the chance to talk about yet. We talked about the strength of the story, we talked about the strength of the dialogue, and I think that's really what a lot of people were after. When they kickstarted this game, you've got to think about why people kickstarted a game like this. They kickstarted a game like this because they wanted a very specific kind of experience, and that experience wasn't currently being offered. So they were able to get it from this, yeah? And I think that that experience really had a lot of stuff in it that was dialogue driven. I think people wanted the ability to investigate, they wanted the ability to persuade. I've managed to avoid the majority of the fights in this game by talking, yeah? So very Fallout-esque, and that's good, that's very good. You can't avoid all of the fights, but a good number of them can be. You don't have to go in shooting. Or alternatively, if you don't want to do that, you can. Alright, so this is an outside area. It's a shame that it actually showed you this one, because this is one of the least impressive looking ones. The town areas are generally covered in neon, really interesting, colorful areas. This is a dock, so, you know, it's to be expected that it's not going to look that great. It's still a nice, clean, and reasonably colorful look, and I still very much approve of the pre-rendered backgrounds here. But it's not the most impressive. Okay, so let's see if we can get into some combat here. Do you know anything about the NTSB, is the question. Alright, I'll talk to some of the bums, maybe. Do a little bit more investigation here. Looks like my friend ran off, so I'm on my own again. I wonder if they'll actually let me get into combat without somebody else. Hopefully they will. Alright, let's see what we can see. Let's head over in this direction. Alright. I'm looking for my kitty cat. Now, you'll notice here that I have an option that's blacked out. Basically, you can pick an etiquette when you create your character, and that lets you do certain things. Like, because I had an academic background, I was able to negotiate on behalf of those stones with the fence. Here, if I had a security background, I would know things to say here, but I don't. So, I'm gonna look for my kitty cat. I'm looking for the King of Dragons, beat it. Man. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any way I'm going to be able to convince it to let me in there, is there? There'll be a back way in. There pretty much always is. And that's the cool thing about the game as well, that there'll always be multiple ways to actually achieve an objective. Like, I can open something using my decking skill. Alternatively, I can... There we go. You know, I'll use my charisma here. Or alternatively, you know, I can pay this guy for stealing his ladder so I can try and get over the fence, you know? Use my decking skill to open something or acquire a password some other way. There's usually at least 2 or 3 different ways of getting where you want to go, which is really, really nice. Very much reminds me of Deus Ex. I mean, funnily enough, I think this game reminds me more of that than I expected. It's the cyberpunk kind of world, it's the gritty style of it, even the music, which is phenomenally good, I might add. Alright, that's where I need to go. Is there an access route anywhere nearby? Maybe I can go over the side there. I'm certainly not going to be able to climb over in front of him. That would be a little bit silly, wouldn't it? Yes, indeed. So I'm thinking maybe just maybe this way? Nope. Alright. See what the objective has to say. Not much. Not much. Okay, so I borrowed the ladder. I'm trying to find a way around. Can I go around that way? Maybe I can climb over that. It's a possibility. See what we have here. Yeah, this looks valid. It's like they've rendered a lot there, which means you'd think that would be the way to go. Apparently it isn't. Lovely. Alright, I'm now horribly lost. Unfortunately, I can't just engage in a gunfight with the police force. That would have been one way of doing it, I guess. Okay, well, I'm totally lost now. Ah, there we go. I guess that makes sense. Alright, so you go distract that, and then I'll head over the wall. There we go. That's how it's done. Up we go. Anytime. Fantastic. And that should let me over. They didn't bother to animate that, which is kind of sad. There's actually a surprising amount of not-so-great animations in this game, honestly, especially in the combat. They don't really hurt the combat all that much, but it would definitely be appreciated if they sucked less than they did. I guess you can call it a throwback if you like. Personally, I'm like, yeah, they probably could have done that, but they decided not to. Well, let's grab that other item as well. Thank you very much. Alright, yeah, send that to my stash. I don't even want to know how that happens. Alright, well, hopefully inside this facility there should be some combat. If not, I'll just try and deliberately start it. Yes, I'm about to enter a new location. Alright, let's get in there. So, what are my overall thoughts about Shadowrun thus far? Like, I'm very, very engaged by it, I've got to say. I think that if it set out to be an old-school CRPG, then that is exactly what ended up happening. It did a pretty damn solid job of it, for the most part. It's obvious that the game is limited in certain respects. Like, it's obvious the game was on a limited budget, and it had a limited amount of time, and with a small team. The transitions to different areas, the more linear than usual nature, the inability to go and explore areas you've previously been to, that stuff, the kind of thing that you could very easily do in most games, at least of this type, isn't really present. That means that it's not quite as fun. I have a feeling, however, that as a result of the editor, that kind of thing will be available through user-generated content. And that might be the saving grace for those of you who are looking for the real freedom here. In terms of character development, in terms of dialogue, in terms of just telling a story, and in terms of having decent, reasonably compelling combat, this game does that, yeah? There's a lot of words, there's a lot of really, really good dialogue, and there's a lot of very interesting choices to be had. I like that. I like that a lot. You generally don't get that all that much. This is not the kind of thing that you will find in most modern games, even modern RPGs, very focused on item collection and combat. This game less so. You may be spending about 5 to 10% of your time in combat in this game. The rest of it is exploration, investigation, discussion, and conversation. It's good. Also, there's some really interesting characters. This guy's particularly cool. As you can see, I'm investigating a murder here. I don't really want to reveal too much of the information, but there you go. Alright. Probably won't run into any fighting here, which is actually kind of a shame. I think I've probably only been in about 5 combat scenes in the last 2 hours, but I could have been in more of them, to be frank. I have avoided several of them. Alright, let's have a look at the computer, shall we? A lot of case files. A lot of reading, as you can see. Well, I would be amiss not to show you the combat. So what I'm going to do is I am going to cut here, and I'm going to go continue the story until I find a bit of a fight. And then I'm going to show you exactly how that works, because I think that's going to be relevant to a lot of people. Alright folks, I found some combat for you, so we can talk about the combat and then we can come to a final conclusion on Shadowrun Returns. So the combat system is very similar to the XCOM title that came out quite recently, as in each character has 2 actions they can take, and it also has a fairly intuitive cover system. So, you know, if I go in here, I'm going to have partial cover. If I get behind that, chances I'm going to have full cover. You know, it makes perfect sense, really. It's not too difficult. In this case, however, I'm trying not to kill the chipheads, which is significantly more difficult, as you can probably imagine. Alright. I'm going to dash over here and then take a shot. So, each of the weapons that you've got will have a different set of abilities with it depending on the type of weapon and also depending on your skill with it. So right now I've got a single shot and an aim shot that I can use with my pistol. I'm going to equip the one with the highest capacity so I don't have to worry about reloading too much. Take a pot shot. There we go. And that was my turn there. So now I get to move the other two characters. Okay. Do I have a grenade I can toss in his general direction? I actually do. So, as you can see, there are things like grenades and consumables available. I missed the location. Hit him anyway, alright. So, I'm using concussion grenades right now to try and not hurt the other characters here and just take out the Yakuza guys. Aim shot and kneecap and the single shot available right here for my character with a shotgun. So the combat is reasonably simplistic, I would say, but it's very effective at doing what it's supposed to do. Yeah, I think that's possibly the most important thing to say about it. Turn-based tactical combat in the CRPG style, it does well. Yeah, it's got a bit of a modern twist on it with the XCOM style of movement and actions and things like that, but it does it pretty well. And the fact of the matter is, without the silly 3D perspective, with this fixed perspective, it's also very, very easy to figure out whether or not you'll be able to take a good shot at something. So it doesn't actually have the same kind of problems that something like the current XCOM actually has, which is good. It's a very good thing indeed. I don't know what that is, but I might want to try and access it. Maybe that would be helpful. Maybe I can stop the chip guys from trying to kill me. I'm trying not to take them out if at all possible. Let's get in range there, and then we could open up the spray and pray. I'm thinking an aimed burst over here is probably a good idea. It's going to be a tough shot regardless. There we go. Nice amount of damage done with the SMG right there. That's what we like to see. Can ignore her for the time being, make a dash forward, and then try and take him out. And hopefully next turn I can activate that. The combat's pretty good. Like, for what I was expecting from it, it is pretty good. Early on in the game, obviously, you don't have a lot of abilities, and since I didn't have a magic user or whatever, a lot of the combat that I'm currently doing is a bit duller than I think that it could be otherwise. But I think once you've got a full party of folks, and you're able to use magic and totems and all sorts of different crazy cyberware and things like that, and I think it's going to get very interesting. I really want to know what the Matrix is like. I really, really do. Okay, I'm jacking in right now. I'm not sure if this is going to help me in any way. I have no idea if that did a damn thing, but it looks like I'm jacking into the Matrix now, so maybe we'll actually get an idea of what's going on. Okay, so in the meantime, let's just try and take out the remaining bad dudes. Health-wise, I seem to be fine. I can afford to take a risk or two. Let's get in a bit of cover here. I don't want to shoot any of these guys, and I don't want to throw a concussion grenade because I'm right in the middle of it, so let's just try and stay in cover for the time being. It's probably a good idea. I shall take cover behind whatever the hell that is on the floor. That sounds like a good idea. Take a shot at the decker from here and miss. Unfortunate. Let's see if this actually does anything. Since I don't have any programs, I don't know if this will even work, but I'm interested to see how it operates. Ooh, this is about to get really ugly all of a sudden. Also, shamans and spirits coming out of nowhere. Less than helpful, let's just put it that way. Wow, she is quite close to dying at this rate. She can't take too many more hits like that. Oh, hello. So, this is the Matrix, it would seem. And it looks like this is designed to let you fight enemy deckers. So the guy that I was shooting at over there, he's currently jacked in there. If I'm able to take him out and override this, I should be able to stop people from trying to punch me. Interesting notion. I don't think I really have the programs to do that with, though, as you can see. I haven't bought any programs. I don't know if I can even attack him. Maybe I can. Looks like I can. Doing a reasonable amount of damage, but he's hurting me pretty badly as well. So what I would imagine is happening here is I'm trying to battle to boot him out of the computer system. It's a really cool idea, actually. Never really seen anything like that before. That's really, really neat. God, if only I had some interesting programs I could use. He's probably just going to kick me out here. I don't think there's really any question about that. It's very doubtful I'll be able to actually get rid of him, especially with his two little cubey friends over there. Yes, this is not going incredibly well, I have to say. But looks like I was lucky enough to at least take him out, but he does have his friends trying to kick me out as well, so maybe I don't get to shut this thing down. Can I move faster than him? Ooh. No, I can't. Alright, so They've now knocked me out of the Matrix. Interestingly enough, you can stay in there until your objective's complete or until you lose, which is an intriguing thing indeed. Looks like I've put him to sleep, though. That's... Huh. Actually, are they all asleep? I guess maybe I was successful. Alright. I guess taking him out was enough to cut his link and shut all these guys down. Alright, that's going to make things significantly easier. Time to open up, I think. There we go. This takes a lot of ammo, but sometimes it can hit multiple targets, which is quite nice. If I recall correctly, there was a kneecap shot. Do I want to do that? Probably just a regular shot would do the job. I want to try and take that shaman out. At this range, that should do a decent amount of damage. Uh-oh. Do I have another weapon? Ah, I have a backup pistol. Okay. There we go. I'll get rid of the spirit as well. So yeah, my combat's pretty solid. If this is the kind of style of combat you're looking for, it's really solid turn-based CRPG combat. Oh, looks like I'm still in here. Interesting. So I guess I can override it. Alright then. I guess I'm going to be able to select that next turn. So that's weird. It's like it gave me multiple turns in here. I wonder what determines you losing your turn. Not 100% sure. It's like, well, that's the BTL override, but... Do I have to clear everybody out? I may have to get rid of all these bastards first. And that's certainly not going to happen, because that just knocked me flat on my arse. That's probably going to put me to sleep for a while. Oh well. It's an interesting little look at it, wasn't it? Alright. So, let's try and come to a conclusion then. I think it's probably about time that we do that. I think this game has succeeded in doing what it was setting out to do. It's created a really interesting Shadowrun experience for someone that, quite frankly, has barely played Shadowrun. And that in itself is kind of impressive, really. The fact that I can get into this universe and not have had any real experience with it is really quite awesome. It's got a lot of great dialogue, investigation, and writing. It fulfills almost all of the things I would really want from a game like this. I think, from a design standpoint, the only thing that I really dislike is just how little freedom you get to travel back to other areas. I also dislike the fact that it doesn't have a damn save option. I don't even know what they're playing out there. That's just so ridiculously absurd. It's the checkpoint system in a PC RPG. I mean, really? I'm trying to think if there's a justification for it. It might be to avoid you scumming, to avoid bad choices in dialogue, but really, I think that's the choice of the player. That's got nothing to do with the other guys at all. That's got nothing to do with what... let's see if I can take these guys out, and then maybe I'll be able to do this. That's got nothing to do with the game. The game shouldn't be stopping you from doing that kind of stuff. If you want to do that, then you should be able to. And frankly, the benefit of stopping that is vastly outweighed by the fact that you have to replay the same section if you have the audacity to decide, you know what, I want to quit and do something else. You know, it's not very good. It's not very good at all. So I'm not too happy with that. But I think they've done a damn good job, honestly, and I think this is exactly what people wanted. I think this is exactly what they expected to get from the Kickstarter, and as a result, I think you can call this a success. I really think you can. It looks like that's what... There we go. There's some kind of allowance down the bottom there, which determines how long you can stay in this thing. Alright, that makes sense. Cool. So I can override this now. So probably the coolest thing about the combat, actually, this Matrix thing is really neat. Looking forward to getting some cool programs and things like that. Let's gently wind them down. There we go. They shouldn't attack us now. Sweet. Very nicely pulled off. It's a great story. Good, solid, robust character creation. Would have definitely liked to see a few more equipment slots if I was to criticize anything in that respect. That would have helped an awful lot. It is what I hoped it was. And I've been enthralled, really, for the past couple of hours, honestly. The story's really interesting, and I want to see it through to its conclusion. And I think if this editor is anywhere near as powerful as it should be, then the hope is that there will be a huge amount of user-generated content. There is, of course, DLC coming. They do have a second city on the way and things like that they want to be looking at just to expand everything. It's probably the time I try and... Apparently, you've just got to leave the Matrix. it would seem, in order to actually be able to fight again. Interesting. Alright, okay. Yeah, there's the exit point. Nice. Yeah, it's probably what you were hoping for if you're into Shadowrun. I think this is the kind of thing that you were praying for, perhaps. It's pretty damn legit. It's a success, certainly. At least in my honest opinion. It feels old in a good way, if you get what I mean by that. It's like, you know, the kind of clunky animations and clunky combat is actually fine. It's very reminiscent of RPGs of old, and the fact that it doesn't have voice acting, I think maybe even is a strength of it, which is a strange thing to say, I know, but it forces you to read, and the writing is good, and it would probably be better than investing a ton of money into voice acting, which very well might not have been good. It's an impressive piece of work, folks. Would I recommend it? If you liked Fallout 1 and 2, Baldur's Gate, Planescape Torment, Icewind Dale, stuff like that, if you like that stuff, yeah, you're damn right I would recommend it. Absolutely. Now, before I go, I would like to show you a little bit of the character creation. I'm going to bail on this, and I'll probably lose a ton of progress, because the game's a bastard like that. It's just that one glaring flaw that I think needs to be fixed. Let's just try and create a new character, just so I can show you what it's like here. So, you can pick from various different races. Elf, dwarf. Yep, that's a dwarf. There we go. Elf, human, dwarf, orc, and troll. That all have different characteristics, as you can see right there. And, of course, you can pick a class or not at all, which is quite nice. They all come with a different set of default clothes, I think. Is that true? No, it's not. Alright, never mind. There are... Yes, actually, it is kind of true. I wasn't lying. There we go. I want to pick a female troll. There's all sorts of great little images we can have there. Female elves. There we go. You can also customize hairstyle on the model, as you can see. So, that's quite nice. Customize different colors. A quick look at the orcs there as well. That's the dwarves, never mind. There we go. They have their own models bound to the portraits as well, by the looks of it, although they're not entirely accurate. Alright. And now I'll have a look at stats. So you get to spend your karma in whatever you want. Set your name, and that's pretty much the character creation. It's pretty good. It's solid enough. There you go. Spend it all in body for no good reason. There we go. Just, yeah, we can do that, and then just put your handle in, and it's as simple as that, really. Alright, folks, Shadowrun Returns is going to be available for you on the 25th, which should be today, for $20 or your regional equivalent. Of course, if you kickstarted this game, you should already have a code, and the game should be preloaded and ready to rock and roll for you. I think you'll have a good time. I'm impressed. I think they really achieved what they set out to do here, and that's good news indeed. Let's hope that other Kickstarters follow suit. See if they manage to pull it off. My name's been TotalBiscuit, taking a look at Shadowrun Returns. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.